Ncert textbooks serve as invaluable resources for successfully navigating entrance exams. Occasionally, interpreting consecutive lines can pose a challenge. Therefore, it is advised to engage with your textbooks attentively and diligently. Lower invertebrates like sponges, coelenterates, flatworms, etc., exchange O2 with CO2 by simple diffusion over their entire body surface. Earthworms use their moist cuticle, and insects have a network of tubes or tracheal tubes to transport atmospheric air within the body. Special vascularized structures called gills or branchial respiration are used by most of the aquatic arthropods and mollusks, whereas vascularized bags called lungs or pulmonary respiration are used by the terrestrial forms for the exchange of gases. Among vertebrates, fishes use gills, whereas amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals respire through lungs. Amphibians like frogs can respire through their moist skin or cutaneous respiration also. The nasal chamber opens into pharynx, a portion named oropharynx of which is the common passage for food and air. During swallowing, glottis can be covered by a thin elastic cartilaginous flap called epiglottis to prevent the entry of food into the larynx. Trachea is a straight tube extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity, which divides at the level of fifth thoracic vertebra into a right and left primary bronchi. The tracheae, primary, secondary and tertiary bronchi, and initial bronchioles are supported by incomplete cartilaginous rings. The thoracic chamber is formed dorsally by the vertebral column, ventrally by the sternum, laterally by the ribs, and on the lower side by the dome-shaped diaphragm. Inspiration is initiated by the contraction of diaphragm, which increases the volume of thoracic chamber in the anteroposterior axis. The contraction of external intercostal muscles lifts up the ribs and sternum, causing an increase in the volume of the thoracic chamber in the dorsoventral axis. The overall increase in the thoracic volume causes a similar increase in pulmonary volume. An increase in pulmonary volume decreases the intrapulmonary pressure to less than the atmospheric pressure, which forces the air from outside to move into the lungs. Relaxation of the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles returns the diaphragm and sternum to their normal positions and reduce the thoracic volume and thereby the pulmonary volume. This leads to an increase in intrapulmonary pressure to slightly above the atmospheric pressure, causing the expulsion of air from the lungs, that is, expiration. On an average, a healthy human breathes 12 to 16 times per minute. The volume of air involved in breathing movements can be estimated by using a spirometer, which helps in clinical assessment of pulmonary functions. The diffusion membrane is made up of three major layers, namely, the thin squamous epithelium of alveoli, the endothelium of alveolar capillaries, and the basement substance, which is composed of a thin basement membrane supporting the squamous epithelium and the basement membrane surrounding the single-layer endothelial cells of capillaries in between them. However, its total thickness is much less than a millimeter. RBCs contain a very high concentration of the enzyme, carbonic anhydrase, and minute quantities of the same is present in the plasma too. Every 100 milliliters of deoxygenated blood delivers approximately 4 milliliters of CO2 to the alveoli. This is done by the neural system. A specialized center, present in the medulla region of the brain called respiratory rhythm center, is primarily responsible for this regulation. Another center present in the pons region of the brain called pneumataxic center can moderate the functions of the respiratory rhythm center. Neural signal from this center can reduce the duration of inspiration and thereby alter the respiratory rate. Receptors associated with aortic arch and carotid artery also can recognize changes in CO2 and H+ concentration and send necessary signals to the rhythm center for remedial actions.